Sean, you got some rums here.
Yeah. So, I mean, not everybody knows, but I mean, like, I've kind of uh, nudged my way into the rum side of things at the shop. For a while, it was Hunter, if anyone knows him, and then it was like nobody for the longest time.
It was
Uh,
this guy. It was this guy, and I knew almost nothing. And then Lance would
yeah,
come to
yeah,
my tasting, and it'd be super awkward because I'd be like, "Oh, he's gonna catch me on something. I'm gonna be wrong."
yeah.
But
I
he's a
remember
nice
at the
guy.
caucus
He's
and
a
stuff.
nice guy, so it's not hard to be corrected by him or given a
Totally.
different perspective.
Yeah, tons of fun. But I mean, like so, and it's kind of funny. I almost had a bubble burst a little while ago. So like, because I like getting into it, and like I've been into for about a year now, maybe a year and a bit, but I've been really kind of expanding my palate for it and exploring new styles and whatnot. And I was convinced that like you're getting like quality for dollar, and you're getting some age sometimes, and you're getting just these experiences that you can't get like any other way. I'm like, man, rum's got to be the next big thing, right? And then and then Lance, you came into the store a couple weeks ago. He's like, and rum's always the next big thing, right? I was like, oh, really? So everybody thinks that, and it just doesn't happen. I was like, all right, fine.
They've been saying it, Sean. They've been saying it for literally 12 years now.
Oh
I
God, yeah.
remember when it. I think the thing is, it's caught on elsewhere. It's finally starting to get some traction in Canada, but I mean, the market's dominated by the big players and their dumbed down, caramel tainted pumps. So
Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, okay, so like what I wanted to do with this though is I wanted to try and showcase a few things that, well, stuff I wanted to try, because we don't do a lot of rum tasting, so we don't have a lot of excuses to open the bottles, so I don't get to try a lot of them. And B, and of course, spreading the gospel, sharing everything with you guys, and making some of these unique things available for you guys to taste, because yeah, like I said, they're kind of one of a kind, right? Some of them are you can't really duplicate them, and in fact, there's a couple things here that I definitely haven't had before, or experienced anything like it before. So anyways, we'll go through. I don't know if there was any late struggles. I'm going to repost that pour list in the chat in case anybody missed it. And we're going to start with number one there. Yeah, if anybody's got questions or anything like that, shoot them in the chat. Eli and Sammy and Kurt and anyone who wants to, if you want, like I'll call on you guys for some tasting notes and stuff like that if you want, and I'd love some participation. It'd be great. Yeah. Anyways, I'm gonna just get started for the first one. I wanted to start something kind of light and kind of fresh, and not super funky or weird. This is we're starting with an agricole rum from Marigallant, which is a small island just to the south of Guadalupe. The distillery is Biel. I think it's pronounced Biel or Biel or something like that. And they're producing fresh cane juice rum, which, if you don't know, is like kind of that French style. It came into style when the discovery of sugar beets happened, and sugar cane was no longer the easiest, cheapest method of making sugar. So you could now do it in colder climates, and sugar cane kind of became a little less in demand. So some of the distilleries started doing something else with it, like making rum. Two main ways of making rum, I guess, like the main principal ways, like molasses or just cane sugar. But the cane sugar and the cane juice, it runs kind of like there's a Venn diagram with some other styles like cachaça and clarin and stuff like that might kind of like muddy the waters of a cane juice rum. But nowadays it just seems like it's like you just say like cane juice rum, I guess. I don't know. It seems like it. I don't know how old this one is. I think it says vieux on it, which means it needs to be at least 3 years. But unfortunately, I couldn't find much in the way of information on it. It sits at about 52%. And it's bottled by an independent bottler called Rasta Morris, which is a Belgian bottler that we've had a little bit in the way of single malts in the store. I remember particularly a Glenburgie that tasted a lot like Irish stew for some reason that I just wasn't a fan of. Rasta Morris is a bottler that's been around since about 2010. The founder is Bert Brunel, who was a former meat packer turned bottler, because I guess he kind of fell in love with the industry. And I don't know, start nosing it. Some common notes on like agricole rums are that they're maybe a little bit more akin to whiskey than they are to like what people might consider rum. I don't necessarily totally agree with it, but it is a little milder, sometimes a little grassy.
Yeah, like lots of sassafras, I think, and like
Sassafras, cool.
maybe a little bit of cola nose.
Yeah, cola for sure. Yeah, I'm
Soft,
getting a little
soft
nutty.
on the top of the nose, but once you get into it, it gets quite tannic. I think.
Yeah. A little bit of like old coffee grounds almost.
Yeah.
Like there's a little bit of a
Yeah.
weird.
I always like rums from Marigoland. They aren't quite as elegant as Martinique, but they do have a certain depth to them that I find very enjoyable.
Oh, cool.
Oh yeah, it's quite mellow, quite elegant. Kind of, there's a cool little tartness on there, like almost like sour cane. When I was tasting it yesterday, I was getting a lot of apricot preserves. That's still kind of present on the palate here.
I like that. That's really good.
A little nutty, like kind of Brazil nut like note.
Yeah, especially on the palate, I think lots of Brazil.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like opening a box of sun-ripe raisins that maybe have been kept in like a damp cardboard box for a couple of weeks.
So I gotta be honest, like we only get so much cane juice rum in the province, and for the past whatever like 20 years, like the most is like I guess like Martinique or Clement or something like that. Like it's only recently that I'm starting to get a little bit more. We did that boutique rum tasting like several months back, and it was that cane juice from the Madeira that really wowed me, just because those cool like prune wine and raisiny notes were just like so intense, and it was nice and spicy, and yeah, it's so different. I think like I think of well, I shouldn't say that, but I mean like we're like the province is just so saturated with like mild caramel heavy sweetened rums, and it's been like that for so long. Having something like this is just so different. Yeah,
Like that one.
like
That was just the lambs I picked up. I wanted to see what it was like. But it's no surprises there.
Halloween molasses candies.
Yeah, lots of
yeah,
blackstrap
cool.
molasses.
Yeah.
Andrew mentioned like that kind of cardboard note, but like you're spelling blackstrap molasses out of like that.
Oh, interesting.
out of the
Yeah.
carton, you know.
Yeah,
Small
yeah.
cartons, you know. Yeah.
Porkiness, yeah.
Yeah.
Anyone else got any cool notes they want to put in the chat?
You covered it pretty well.
Yeah,
Eli-
try that. Yeah, good
Eli
call.
wants to talk.
That's a good note. I like that. Yeah.
I was just gonna say that for this one, like personally, it's like on the nose, like dry, or on the nose, like a little bit almost lemongrassy, and then on the palate, I just get a ton of dried mango, and I don't know if that's just like a personal thing. I think that's the same, almost like stale dried fruit, almost sort of note. That's just
Stale
like
note's good. The stale note's
Yeah.
good.
just like dried mango.
I like the stale
Yeah.
note. Yeah.
Yeah, raw sugar cane sticks. Yeah, there's
Yeah.
definitely a lot of
Yeah,
big
the
cane
sticks,
note
yeah,
on
like
there.
sticks,
Yeah.
yeah.
Good call, Sammy.
That's crazy how much like kind of dried fruit there is on there, which I mean, I wouldn't expect from presumably American oak. I'm not sure what kind of cask this was matured in, but
So it starts in a foeder, which is just like a huge, like a big giant kind of a wood vat, and then it goes into ex-bourbon.
Ex-bourbon or limousine?
Ex-bourbon.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not sure for how long for the ex-bourbon. Like, there's not like a huge hit of white oak on there, but there's definitely some, right? Like,
Mhm.
I wonder if maybe like that. I'm wondering if the foeder is where we're getting that weird antique old kind of like semi-stale kind of note on there.
Yeah, I really like that note.
That's really cool. Yeah, it's a nice easy drinking rum, that's for sure. Oh yeah, sorry. Thanks, Andrew. There's that's the bottle there.
I really like that antique stale note.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good.
Kind of austere.
Yeah.
And I also like to I want to be happy and thankful that I think there might be one rum in here that might have a bit of sweetness added, but for the most part, I don't think any of the others do. it's not an uncommon practice in the industry, but I mean, I don't know. Some people don't mind it. I guess a lot of people, I don't know, like I guess a lot of people really started liking rums with those sweeter ones, especially if you're like really into that North American palate that it just wants, big, sweet, unctuous things. Yeah. But I mean, you got to start somewhere, right? And then you kind of like even when I first got into wine, I like big, fruity, like jammy wines, right? And you kind of grow out of it. You taste your way through it. And now I kind of like things a little bit more old world, old school, a little bit more food friendly. Yeah. Cool. All right. I'm gonna move on to the second one. If anyone wants to join. So I'm not sure. I think maybe Kevin and maybe a few other people, you might have joined us for the Rum Sponge tasting we did the other day with Angus. For those who don't know, Angus McRail, he's the founder of he is the Whisky Sponge, and he's I think he's the founder of Decadent Drinks. I think that's his company, but and he's a kind of independent bottler, and he's a fairly big figurehead in the whiskey world. He definitely kind of took us to school a little bit the other day with some of the things that he knew. It was really incredible. But on top of getting some of his whiskeys into the province this year, we were really lucky to get some of his rums too. We got two specifically. We got a Barbados and a Jamaica. First we're going to try both tonight, but the first one is the Barbados. This is kind of I don't know, I hate to say this is the blank of blank, but when someone's looking at a distillery for rum, Foursquare does seem to be the one that everybody wants and everybody chases after now, and it just seems to be it just has, I don't know, I'm not sure if it's reputation or just like hype. It's definitely hype, but I mean it could be more to that as well.
Well, the Americans love the bourbon notes that they kind of put there, so it that's their intro into it. But Europeans are, aside from the Brits, they tend to be a little bit more jaundiced about it because they like the agricoles and they've got so many more others to choose from. So it doesn't have quite the same sort of rep, but it sells well. It sells out in the United Kingdom anytime a bottle goes on sale. So yeah, absolutely. Of course, it's like the face of Barbados these days.
I think they see it on Ontario as well, and I don't think there's any chance it stays on the shelf that long. Like,
no.
Especially in a good spirit desert like Ontario. So Foursquare has been around since about 1996. Richard Seal is the name of is kind of the who you'll see as the name of the as the kind of the face of the business. He's been doing, I don't know, it's not like some people don't care as much about it, but like he does some cool innovative stuff as well. Like I think I read somewhere that it's supposed to be kind of one of the greenest distilleries out there, like where they do a lot of carbon capture. They'll capture their CO2 from fermentation and give it to the beverage industry. Yeah. He also is the only distillery I know that utilizes a vacuum distillation apparatus on his coffee still, which I actually don't know any. I don't know, maybe somebody else can throw one out at me, but I don't know any other distiller that uses vacuum apparatus.
Can you explain that to me a bit?
Yeah, so like distillation being like you're heating your liquor up, so you're gonna evaporate off your lower boiling point stuff like ethanol and a bunch of other stuff. But if that still is put under a vacuum, it lowers the boiling point of everything that's in it, so you can evaporate all that stuff off at a lower temperature. There's a lot of different things that kind of can come of that. Like you're not causing quite as many heat sensitive reactions to happen. Maybe you're not causing heat sensitive components to break down mid distillation. There's a lot of different things that can kind of affect it. But you're also using less energy to put heat into the system as well, which helps towards the green side of what he's doing. For anyone who might be of that mind with things. But I think almost, well, it's said at least that kind of everything he throws out is a combination of a pot still and a column still. Maybe you can get single still like examples of what he does, but I'm not really sure. This bottle specifically, we got, I'm just going to guess that that's what it is. I also am kind of youthful enough in my rum experience that I don't think I could tell a column still and a pot still rum apart. I think I could give it a good go, but just based on what I know from like whiskeys and stuff. But yeah, got me.
Yeah. Sean, I don't know if you noticed them. Kurt had some pretty good tasting notes. The He-Man dolls, I think, is a great one. Like that.
Oh my god!
But
it's so dead, Kurt.
I'm gonna throw spearmint gum
He-Man
there,
dolls. Oh my god!
and we'll
Skeletor.
after a 2-week backpacking trip.
Oh my
there's kind of like
God, you win. I'm so dead.
This is pretty furniture polish over rum raisin ice cream. Yeah, good call, Dave.
Yeah. Yeah, but lots of furniture polish for sure. I like that.
Oh, is the craft is, oh, here you go. Okay, cool. Thanks for that. Jeff, that's a great resource. I'm gonna check it out later. Cool. Thanks, man. He's got a list of vacuum distillers. Cool.
Oh, that's really cool.
Candied straw and hay from Benny. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
There's a little bit of
Lemon Hall is good. I like lots of pineapple.
yeah,
for
okay. So
sure.
I like, again, this is one of the ones I kind of went through yesterday to kind of get a bit of a note as to my order, and I was definitely getting some eucalyptus and hulls in there for sure.
Yeah, you know, look at eucalyptus. That's actually a really good note in that, eh?
Yeah.
Like more subtle. but
eucalyptus, yeah.
The eucalyptus is really good. No, I like that.
Burlap.
You meant to help me out. I didn't know that. I didn't know you guys talked about that.
I found the palette of this a little, so I guess I can, I don't know. I've had like only like maybe half a dozen four squares. I found this to be one of the fruitier expressions I've had. I don't think he typically makes things that are like super high ester or anything like that. I could be wrong, but this one did have some really nice pineapple
He's
syrup.
starting to experiment with that, with the long fermentation thing that he put out with Habitation Villiers last year. And that, I mean, that just shook the shit out of everybody. They were so amazed with some of this stuff. I tried it. I think it was in Paris. I'm probably far. Very young, almost white, but terrific taste. I mean, it's really quite something. If you can, it's very difficult to get, obviously, but yeah, no, he's trying.
No, that's cool. That's good. I mean, those are the, at least having a little bit in there kind of excites me more than just a like a lowest rum typically. But oh, there's Doug. Hey, Doug. Oh, so he's got that. Yeah, there you go. Cool.
You know,
Oh, you're muted, Doug. I can't hear you. You're welcome to unmute
you
if
know,
you
like the
want.
red.
Yeah, for sure. I think this is the one that you were talking about, the 2-year aged one. That's 100% pot still, long fermentation from Velier.
Is that the 2013 or the 20, or is it the LFT?
This is the 2013.
No, I'm not talking about that one. I'm talking about one that is specifically LFT, long fermentation time. I've tried that 2013 pot still. It's really quite amazing too. I really liked it.
Neat.
Yeah.
Oh man, there's such a big hit of like passion fruit on this one too. Like not as big as some of the like Trinidad's I've had, but definitely like pretty big. Really buttery too. A little bit of engine oil on the palate, like a little bit of that industrial kind of solventy note. I'm looking over my notes from last night on the nose. I also put mosquito repellent on there, which I hang on.
As a guy who grew up with that stuff in his house, I can tell you, yeah.
That's actually wicked note. I like it.
Burlap. What was it got here? Benny, 19-year Trinidad from from the last tasting there. Yeah. You're right. Yeah, totally. A little bit of a little bit of menthol in there for sure.
I know menthol eucalyptus kind of
Yeah,
the same.
yeah.
Yeah. Those are so different than palate for me on these.
I like the I kind of like the dryness of that rum too. It's not like too it's not too intense or anything like that. It's kind of mellow.
Yeah.
What was the alcohol on that one? I didn't really see.
Oh, here, it's right here.
49%. So it's also not too like it's modest. It's not so bad. And that makes sense. It's very drinkable. Cool. Anyone else got anything cool to put on there? Eli, did you put anything? Oh yeah, no, isn't it?
Oh, the setup was so
Lemon hulls, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I like those notes. They're good.
Cool. Nice.
Really.
All right, I'm gonna move on. So compared to everything else in the lineup, I almost felt that this was kind of like the odd one out in the sense that it was just like that I don't know, it's like that's that almost that typical style that you kind of know. It's got good molasses notes, it's got good caramel on top, those darker kind of desserty notes. This is the one that I was wondering if they added a little bit of sweetness to it, but I don't know if you could really find out, honestly, unless you had a pretty good hydrometer or something. But yeah, so the next one is from Belize. The Travelers Distillery. I think it's I'm not sure if it's the only distillery there, but it's the only
Not anymore.
distillery.
There's another one.
Yeah, I'm sure at this point that they would have had more for sure. This distillery is kind of originated from one guy, Don Amario. It was about 1953. He was a bar owner turned, no, he's a bottler, rum bottler turned bar owner, or vice versa, and then turned distiller. Back in the day, it was quite common for I think it was actually the same in bourbon, I think, as well, but it was quite common for people to buy rums from distilleries and kind of blend their own as their own product. But I think with the hype of that, he decided to start to kind of build a distillery from the ground up. And as well, I don't know if he built the whole thing from the ground up. He built a brand from the ground up.
Yeah, you certainly did. Just a thing here. The picture there talks about a Valinch Mallet Travelers. That's 56.3%. But the bottle sample that came in the kit was 57.1%. What's the true strength of this thing?
Oh, you know what?
This bottle is 56.3.
Yeah, I think it might have just been a typo on the labels.
Got it. Okay. I'll correct my stuff here.
We seldom make mistakes like that, Lance.
That's all right. It
We
happens
do
to
quite
me.
frequently.
Testing. Andrew's just testing to make sure everyone's paying attention. So
Okay.
So Valinch Mallet is another bottler. Most of the guys in this tasting seem to be a lot of whiskey guys. So you all know about most of these people. Yeah, but they're an Italian bottler. I can't remember if it's one or two guys, but David Romano, I think was his name. It is two. I couldn't find the name of the second guy, so that's fine.
You're gonna love it. It's Fabio.
Oh, of course, yeah. It couldn't not be.
Just for the whiskey guys out there, can someone confirm that a Valinch is actually the cork or the bung in a barrel?
It's the metal thief that you put in to take liquid out.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Eli, maple fudge, caramel apples, nutmeg, vanilla extract.
well, you guys put your
Oh,
notes.
that,
out.
or is
It's so
that
good.
Yeah.
Yeah, Andrew, I know, with lots of VA in it, Andrew. Nail polish, eh? Yeah, lots of volatile acid in it for sure. Yeah.
Big wood char, big American oak, big ex bourbon. Yeah, a lot of burnt toffee.
Yeah, lots of wood char, like mesquite wood char.
Yeah, a lot of it.
Yeah. It's nice though.
Mm-hmm. Nice hit of cola on there. A little nutty, kind of sherry like. That nice hit of dried fruit. It's
So
very
what-
mellow and easy.
So Andrew, is the nail polish, like, is that something that's like a fault for you, or just like something that's a?
I mean, it was more on the nose than the palate. The palate
Yeah.
I think comes across quite nice. But it just reminds me of when I was a little kid, when my mom was taking her nail polish
Totally.
off the remover. So I just had, it's like seared in my memory from my
Mm,
childhood.
I
That was back when families might have two bathrooms in the whole house. And like one of them was kind of shared, so.
Toasted coconut, good call, Kurt.
Yeah, that's a
and
wicked,
yeah,
that's a wicked note, toasted coconut.
yeah, you're right, Doug. Yeah, of course, column still and molasses. Again, I'm not totally sure. I column still it says on the bottle, and again, I don't really know how to tell quite yet, but
Yeah, it's a perfect note.
Yeah,
Toasted.
the cool thing with the Valinch Mallet is they typically will tell you on the bottle what type of still it was distilled in,
Mm.
but not all of them do.
neat,
Hi.
very cool.
Really good. I love it.
Spanish country is almost always column. Yeah, okay, that's fair. That's fair. I guess that's well, I guess it's more modern, but I guess maybe they run cheaper, I suppose, as well, easier. Maybe
Yeah.
you get more spirit out of it. Yeah.
Yeah, they're good for quantity and they are more efficient as well. Plus it's continuous, right? I mean, pot stills are batch, so you tend to lose a bit out there.
That's true. Yeah.
Has anybody tried any of the rums from the Renaissance distillery in Taiwan yet? I'm aiming this at you, Andrew. You might have.
Yeah.
It's not that the rums are particularly good or bad or anything like that. I'm actually thinking more in terms of the labeling. They're the absolute ultimate labels that you could possibly ask for. I've never seen anything like it. You know, I mean, they literally put everything, how many fermentation times they had, how many cycles they had, what they put in, which barrels it went into, what kind of still, how many passes. Then they say, okay, then we aged for X months in this and Y months in that. And it's just like one big label of nothing but overkill. You get hit between the eyes with this stuff. You know, I've never seen anything like, even Velier, which started this whole thing about true disclosure, you know, can't come close to this stuff. But their rums are actually quite nice too, if you ever get to try one, but pricey, very pricey.
That was Taiwan, you said?
Yeah, Taiwan. They
Yeah,
just started it about
that's-
2017 or thereabouts. It's very
Mhm.
recent.
I guess I'm not super surprised. They really knocked it out of the park with Cavalan. I guess maybe they're, you know, they're just, I guess they're just
Right.
got a head for quality, I suppose, right?
Yeah, but the whole Far East and is something we need to pay some attention to. I think the West Indies everybody knows about. It's, you know,
Yeah.
go a little further afield, you'd be really surprised at some of the good stuff out there.
Have you
Yeah,
like,
This
that's
whole label's triggering my ADD.
Mm,
Too busy.
yeah, that's crazy.
There's too much on there.
That's an intense label.
yeah. I think they just wanted to say, screw you, man. We can do better than anybody out there, and they certainly did.
Like a worm tub, maybe? Oh, interesting. That's cool. I know there's a couple of there's a couple of reasonable ones out of Japan I had that I know of, but only the one that I've had. I had that that Okinawa one out of Tita, which I really enjoyed because it was like
the 21-year-old or the 5?
no, I just had I think it was just the 5, 9. I can't remember. Yeah.
There's 3 of them, I think.
Yeah,
white,
I
a
think it
gold,
was
and a
I think
very
it might
old.
have been the 5-year. But I thought it was fantastic. And when I tried to pour for a tasting, people weren't really into it, but that's all right. Maybe it was too early, but who knows? And then 9 Leaf is another one that I've been looking at, but I haven't really found anything from them. I am not really sure if they're any good or not, but yeah.
That they're the most Western of all the Japanese distilleries, largely because they use Western techniques in making it, and they don't go through the whole sake or awamori or shochu route of koji and all the rest of it. But that's outside this discussion. So please go right ahead.
No, neat. That's kind of cool. Yeah, I had a gin from that had an awamori base, and it was challenging, but it was neat. It's kind of neat if they would do a rum with something like that. But yeah, I'd have to read a bit more into it. Who else got here? Icing sugar on the nose now from Kevin. Yeah, cool. Waxy maple candy. Yeah, it's got that nice, rich, oh yeah, nice. Cool. All right. No, carry on to the next one again. So we're jumping back to Rum Sponge. This is the second of the 2 that we have. It's out of the Clarendon Distillery in Jamaica. At least I think that's one I have, right?
Yeah, Clarendon.
Yeah, totally. Oh, you know what? I forgot to mention too, just like a kind of a bonus thing on that 4 square that we had. I didn't. It was 21 years old, which is kind of neat considering I don't think they're releasing a lot of really old stock, at least not that I've seen. So it is kind of neat to see something like, you know, a fairly considerable age. You know, it's some of the casks from year 4, year 5, I guess they were in production. But yeah, anyways, it speaks to the value, I guess. But right. So for the next one, so Clarendon is named after the Clarendon Parish, which is the parish it's in. It's on the southern part of the island. And it's been around for reasonable amount of time. I think it's built around 1950, 1949, I think. And it was government owned for the most part until about 1976 when it was sold to, I think, what is it? The National Rums of Jamaica and I can't remember the other name of the company, but I think they still own it to this day. But they're a larger company or a subsidiary of a larger company. And the people like Plantation have a big stake in it.
Okay, so that is National Rums of Jamaica, which is 1/3 owned by Plantation through their stake in West Indies Rum Distillery in Barbados, 1/3 owned by Demerara Distillers Limited out of Guyana, actually.
Right.
And I think the other 1/3, is it government owned or is it, I can't remember who that other third is, but yeah, it's definitely joint ownership. I think the Jamaican government has the last bit.
Right, that makes sense, I guess. And I think that subsidiary also owns part of Long Pond, I believe, too.
Yes, it does. Yes, it does. And that's why Plantation has a stake in Long Pond as well, which pisses a lot of people off.
Yeah, but I mean, they get access to all the worms they want, I suppose. So that's nice.
Yes, they do. Plus, they're pouring money into refurbishing it, right? But
Oh, I can
fermentation, that's a twitchy subject.
So this guy's 15 years old, 57.1%. I personally, I don't know if I would call this super high ester, but it's definitely like got a lot. Like, I guess, I don't know. I've been exploring things that are like stupid high ester lately to the point where I almost don't like it anymore. But, and this is not, it's not insane, but it's definitely pretty prominent. And it really like, I think what I like is instead of like dipping more into the solventy notes, it really focuses on like the fruitier esters that are right in your face, which is really nice. You can see on the palette, on the label, sorry, the label 2 is like pretty indicative of what he's trying to do with it.
Beautiful, I love it.
Clarendon uses both column still and pot still. They use their column still for lighter style rums, and which is typically lower in ester, slower fermentation times, or sorry, faster fermentation times, 1 to 2 days. And then they have their pot still, which is their more heavier spirit with a higher ester. And I think the fermentation time there is up to a month. And then I'm not really sure why they do this, but I read that they actually store their wash in steel for 2 weeks after fermentation. I'm not sure if that's for mellowing or if it's for letting
It is. That's exactly what it is. Resting, they call it, but it's mellowing.
I was wondering if maybe like it was allowing the dunder to like undergo any of the reactions that it needs to at the end of the day there maybe, but tough to say, I guess. Yeah, but the result for those long fermentations, especially with the pot still, you get those really volatile compounds, the esters that are super flavorful, and that's of course what you're getting mostly on the nose and palate here. Oh man, it's like a pineapple upside down cake with like syrup drenched all over it. It's pretty juicy.
That smells amazing. I love it.
Even their highest ester stuff though is still only what like a mid Hampton would be, or like a higher end like Worthy Park.
It's not super intense, yeah.
Okay.
Like it's sort of in that 300 to 400 sort
Yeah.
of ester range.
Do they list those esters on these bottles? For
Not these ones.
They do sometimes.
Yeah, not on this. Generally, it's only the Valinch ones or some of the sort of distillery releases that you would see proper ester levels.
Yeah.
Oh man, I love this.
Yeah.
Bert, what you thought of this one? What did you think of this one? This Clarendon. Yeah.
Oh, Kurt doesn't want to say. That's all right. Thumbs up. No, he said thumbs up.
Oh yeah, me too.
Oh man, there's so much more menthol on the palate on this one. It's really like it almost feels like I'm smoking a menthol.
But I found this one like some of the fruit balances are like some of them are too like tannic for me, like too like the oak kind of show.
Oak tannins and yeah.
Showing through too much and out too much, and I think this one still has some nice kind of juiciness to it.
Yeah.
For me. So.
Yeah, this feels like the most naked out of all of the ones that we've had. It was thrown in some probably second use because it probably got brought over by sort of Shear, one of the other big brokers. And then do we know how much continental aging was on this versus tropical?
I don't think he said. No,
Oh,
I
man.
don't think it
They
mentioned
should
it.
put that on the bottles.
Some of them do.
Do they?
Yeah.
Oh, that's
Some do, but if they don't, you can, especially the older it is, the more you can assume that a substantial portion is European, because the distilleries, what they age on site is for their own stock, their own estate bottling, like Worthy Park or Hampton or what have you, right? So they're not gonna sell that just so for in an ISO container. They're gonna ship the new make spirit over to Shear or whoever and let them age it.
Yeah.
Oh, Kurt did give some notes. He's like, nose is like putty, kerosene, jujubes,
putty.
fermenty, grapefruit,
Putty.
palate, licorice, paint and polish, eucalyptus, dry tropical fruits, tart and tangy candies. Yeah, anesthetic. Totally. Kind of tannic. Good
Legend.
call.
So good.
Yeah, really good.
Putty is so good. Oh my god.
Nerds soaked in camping stove
Nerds.
alcohol. Yeah, that's such a wonky piece.
I knew that was brilliant.
That's a Raphael note. Oh my god.
That's
So-
awesome.
So good.
Someone ruined a carrot by adding pineapple. That
Wow, that's wicked. I love that. That's so
just
good.
hitting it out there. It's so good.
Hmm.
The rubber and putty, I guess, that's the same.
Oh man, it's really good.
Really, really
Yeah,
good.
green
I love-
banana.
I love the notes.
Nice. Yeah, I guess the main, like when you're looking at esters, like I can't remember what they're what you would call them, but I mean like the two main things you get off them are typically banana and pineapple. It definitely dips into other things. Like I said, you like passion fruit was something that came across a while ago. I've had like nice kind of strawberry like notes on things, but I think banana, even when it comes to like things like beer, is like the most prominent ester you're gonna produce from the yeast there.
Okay.
But yeah, and more often than not, the way you're getting them is prolonged fermentation. Like, you know, you're looking at like the Scotch whiskey world and whatnot, and you're talking about fermentations that are, you know, kind of a few days kind of thing. Whereas this can stretch out into months. There's some really wonky distilleries out there that just kind of just let things go until
interesting.
whatever. They can also add what's called dunder, which is like it's like spent stillage. Typically it's, well, and I don't know if you look it up, a dunder pit, like there's some really weird like things that and legends and old kind of folk tales that you can find on them. I don't know if there's any like credence to any of that stuff, but it's really just like a really compound kind of chemical heavy muck. They call it muck in certain like at Long Pond, for example, and then they'll add that to the fermented wash, and it helps kind of produce more esters.
It's yeast.
It's just stillage. It's just whatever they're done running the still. It's whatever's left in there, and they'll kind of they'll keep it in a tank or a vat or what have you,
Or a hole in the ground, as they do in
or
Hampton.
anywhere. Yeah, hole in the ground, totally.
Cool.
And then they can also further maintain those esters by using a pot still rather than a column still. But that's more getting into, I mean, kind of more stylistically, I suppose, what you want to do with it.
Cool.
Pineapple. And
Actually, just as an aside on dunder, and this is what they call the Jamaican process almost, which is not entirely true, but certainly they're the ones who are most famous for it. But just as an aside, there's a rum maker called Killick in Australia who is experimenting with exactly the same procedure. And I tried some of their stuff from the that they did about a couple of years ago, and man, oh man, that stuff is good. So if that little company ever comes across your thing, because they make whiskeys as well, you could do worse than give it a try if it ever does. It's unlikely, but you never know, right?
that South Africa distillery, MOBA, they're known to use
They do that too. Yeah, that's
some
right.
of theirs. I think the bottle that you bought, the Holmes K, it might be involved because it's pretty ridiculously ester heavy, but who knows? Actually, that's a good question. Can you tell by flavor one that has used under versus one that hasn't?
No, because it really is just the production of acids and esters and pungeners, they call them, right? So the source of that, no, you can't tell. You've basically got to kind of like beg the producer to tell you.
Right.
Like
Okay.
unders from different places then? Like,
Yeah, probably not the same
No?
thing. Yeah. It's
No?
probably just like whatever's there. Yeah.
okay.
Wing of bat and eye of newt kind of thing, you know?
Man, this is a wicked bottle. I really enjoy it. It's just super pleasant. It's just hitting the bases between like weird industrial kind of like tannic funk and that nice fruitier tone just so nicely.
Hot, eh? It's pretty hot still.
Yeah.
Eh? I really love this. My favorite so far. Industrial. Eh?
I'm digging
She's
it.
hot, eh? Industrial.
Before I start going to the next one, has anyone started noticing it yet? This one I was a little nervous about. I thought it was going to be a little bit easier going than this, but it's actually a pretty intense rum.
The next one smells like jalapeno jack cheddar cheese, or jalapeno jack cheese slices,
Oh my God, Anders.
and an Ohio train derailment.
Oh my
Right? Is it too soon? Is that too soon?
Timing, man. Well,
Oh my God. That's
say-
incredible notes.
they say comedy is timing, right? Ooh.
Those,
Oh, man.
those are
Just like the blackened outer skin of marshmallows for me.
Oh, nice.
which one?
Which one are we on here, guys? Are we on number
So
five?
this
I'd
is
move
the
up to the
Overzinho.
Oh, yeah, where's the bottle?
Oh no, wait, no, is it? Hang on.
Yeah, I think that's the one, right?
No, yeah, sorry, no, this is the Fernandez, I think. Yeah.
Okay, good. I just wanted to
Yeah,
check.
sorry, my bad. I
Fernandez.
had things mixed up here.
What was the other? What was the last note?
So you said the Ohio train
No,
derailment.
so Yeah, that smell like train tracks. I like that.
Beautiful bottle on this one.
I think it was in Ohio. I just know that they're referring to it as like they're trying to find a way to pronounce Palestine in an American way, so it didn't sound like, Muslims.
Oh,
That's what all the news stories sound like. So that's what I heard.
That's just Israel, Andrew.
Like olive, kind of like green olives.
so I get, okay, so to take back what I said about this one being a little bit nervous about, I guess that's the last one. So this one I was actually really excited about because I've had it before. I split a bottle between Sammy and Eli, so they know this one already, but I'm not that, I only have so much experience with Trinidad rums too. I mean, I've had like one Coronia and I've had a bunch of TDL, which is what this is from. It seems like that style ends up being really kind of diesel-y, dirty gasoline kind of note, but with some nice fruit underneath it. That is if you stay away maybe from Zaya or something like that. I don't think that's quite, it sits in the same realm. But this is I mean, it's still the distillery, Trinidad Distillers Limited, but they label it as what they call Fernandez, which I'm probably gonna really butcher it if I start going through it, but it's an old label, kind of long story. There was a distiller named Fernandez, and it was at one point in the early 20th century one of the dominating force in distilling in Trinidad. I think they had like 85% market share or something like that. I'm not really sure what happened after that, but they also for a while there had some of the largest, what was said to be some of the largest stocks in the Caribbean of old aged rum. But eventually it ended up getting, I think it got sold to the government of Trinidad, I believe.
Yeah, they folded it into Angostura. So Angostura was government owned, so they just bought all
kind of
the
they started piecing out some of the assets and stuff like that too. I think the property itself went to Caroni. I think there was a sugarcane factory that went somewhere else. I can't remember. And the funny thing is like they're still making, I think they still make rums with the Fernandez like the Fernandez label on it, or like
yeah, they do. Fernandez VAT 19 or something like that.
Yeah, but I'm not really, I'm kind of curious. I've never had that one. I'd be interested to see what that is compared to this one. I'm not sure what the big difference in the marks are or anything like that, but I like how this one doesn't lean too far into like that diesel-y kind of like dirty gas note. It's actually quite mellow and fruity.
It's very drinkable so far.
It's
The only thing
super
of
drinkable.
all of them so
Yeah.
far, I think for me it's very drinkable.
Nice hit of tropical fruit on it. Yeah, I don't know what else to really say about it other than that. Like, it's just it's just an excellent, easy sipping rum. The Whisky Agency, they're as the name would suggest, a whiskey bottler. They bottled this in collaboration with Heads and Tails Importers, which is our good friend Igor Kosov, his company in Toronto there, who imports a lot of these weirdo importers, including the Whiskey Sponge and stuff like that, or sorry, bottlers.
Is the Fernandez mark similar to like some of the Guyanese ones where they actually move the stills and are trying to keep the same mark in a different location?
Yes and no. The three famous heritage steels are the wooden ones. That's Versailles, Port Morant, and Enmore. But they always had that French Saval still. And that French Saval still is the most versatile of all the ones they got because it can produce like 9 or 10 or more different marks. And that's what they use when they want to recreate some of the old stuff like Skeldon, for example, because of course Skeldon was decommissioned back in 1950, but they claim that they have the recipe to make a Skeldon rum with the Saval still, if done right. So yes, to answer your question, yeah, something like that. But whether they can recreate the Fernandez mark in Angostura, that's harder because I think their distillation apparatus was actually sold on out of the country. And it was just the premises that got taken over and their stock that got taken over by Angostura itself in the 70s.
Oh, cool.
Interesting.
Fascinating.
I love this one.
Yeah, really neat. Really fun. Like I said, super drinkable. Like I can and have sipped this all night. It's just absolutely wonderful.
Yeah.
What do we got here for Eli says burnt pomelo and passion fruit.
Pomelo for
Pomelo,
sure, hey?
cool.
Oh yes, for sure.
Whiskey taste, not a fan, but unique for sure from Ryan. Yeah. Matt's asking if it's coming back in stock. I don't think so. Last time we chatted with Igor, he didn't really seem to think that there was anything like that left. He gave us a refill of some of the other ones. Like I think we had like the Panama and whatnot. But I think that one's
I think
gone.
Andrew's right. I think the palate's like way more interesting than it knows.
Yeah. I agree. Yeah, the palate's like really, really stunning. Jeff's got COVID palate. Oh no. Rum and musty. That sucks, man. I'm sorry to hear that. Green apples, vanilla cake, and ginger tummy gummies.
No, those are.
Oh, my ginger tummy.
It's just a big red belly, I guess.
Yeah. Oh my God. It's, I love it so much.
Anyone else got some cool notes on that? Man,
So drinkable. Don't you think so far like the most drinkable?
yeah, there is like, it just seems so syrupy too. Its texture is really thick and kind of like, and really coating. Oh, lime leaves, neat.
Yeah. Yeah.
A little Thai influence.
Yeah. Wow, it's good. You guys used to like dried tannic stuff, eh? Like even for me, I'm like,
Mm. Nice. All right.
no,
How
I think
old is it? How old is this thing? It said
Right
it
after-
said it was distilled in 99, but you didn't actually say how old it was.
Oh, 21 years.
21 years. Okay, got it.
you're right. Like maybe very.
So do they actually have an age statement, or they just have a bottling date on it? Because this is always the problem with rum: is it's brought over in inert containers, left in there for a certain amount of time, and then re-racked into wood by Maine Rum or somebody else like that.
For independent
99,
bottlers,
2000.
they don't let it stay rest for too long unless the agricole makers do that a lot though. But what I found of late is that they tend to mention the distillation, they mention the date of bottling, and some like the Transcontinental Rum line, they tend to tell you the division of where it has been and what it has done in what kind of cask. But it's still an ongoing process. They haven't really gotten it settled with all of them yet because the standards aren't there for people to follow. I mean, it's all very voluntary, right? So it's really people like us who demand this kind of shit, who have made them give us as much as we have. And usually if you reach out to them, they will tell you everything you need to know. But, not everybody wants to do that.
Did you say that the agricole producers, they glass rest their stuff?
No, steel, usually in inert steel tanks. When they rest it at all, and that's not a consistent thing. Some do, some don't, and sometimes they just don't bother. I mean, it's a bit of a hit or miss, but they usually say so. They could just call it resting. That's all.
It seems like, and we talked about it a little bit with Angus the other day, and Kurt and I talked about it a little bit, but I think, well, at least from what it looks like, there's becoming a little bit more interest in the effects of what glass aging and things like that, like neutral age, so-called neutral aging, does to things. Like we were just tasted on this really neat, like non-tequila, because it's like this distillery is literally on the outskirts of Jalisco, and they've been distilling for years, and they have all of this spirit that's been sitting in glass for 15 years now, and we're going to be getting it for like pennies on the dollar kind of thing, because it's this just brilliant, mellow, like soft tequila like spirit that's just,
but it creates a real problem, because a few years ago I tried a rum that was bottled in Denmark, and it had literally been rested for 10 years in steel tanks, right? Because nobody knew what to do with it. I think it was a Jamaican rum in point of fact. And they put a big 10 on the label. But I remember thinking, I'm talking with a bunch of guys out there, and they were saying, what does aging mean in a case like this when you can't speak to a chemical reaction, which is what aging is supposed to impart, like with the wood, right? If it rests in an inert tank, whether glass or steel or whatever, can you truly say it's been aged? So when I wrote about it, I think I remember saying that it was rested, but is it really a 10-year-old?
Is there a difference between like the steel and the glass, because it's like less light effect in the steel than there is in the glass?
Maybe that's what it is. It's such a complex subject. I couldn't pretend to be an expert or know about that kind of complex chemical interaction, right? I really couldn't tell you.
We were talking, like Kurt and I literally, we just brought it up earlier today, and I guess like, yeah, so I kind of it raises the question of like how exactly you define maturation, right? Like is it like how many steps away is glass than the deadest most tired refill barrel that you could find, right? Other than the amount of oxidation it's going to be subject to. It's tough.
It's a long ways away.
Yeah, I guess.
I
suppose. But but even then, though, but there's still, is it equally distant than that is from virgin oak though? Like, it still creates a bit of a spectrum, I don't know. Like it
Cool topic.
it creates more debate, I suppose. And I don't claim to know one side or another, but it's very neat. And I've had some cool, like, I don't know. Well, Doug, you buy a lot of older bottles, and you get, there must be change, because eventually you get that old bottle effect. But before that, it can become something quite soft and beautiful. I don't know.
It's super interesting too, right? Because it's like higher ABV single malt seems to be the best in terms of being able to weather that long sort of bottle aging. Old grain whiskey just starts to fall apart, and that's where those OBE notes come in. And like I've had some older rums that have been in the bottle for 20 or 30 years. They're definitely softer, but the biggest thing that I find with rum is once you open it, the oxidization just attacks the esters in such a way that it just mellows it right down in such a faster way than single malt ever does.
Right. Yeah,
Weird,
interesting.
eh?
And it's a neat subject. It's a neat thing to experiment with. I remember, like, not to draw on too many old things, but with Angus, he was talking about how like there's certain bottles that he had that he's really excited to leave it in the bottle for a while and take and open it, years and years from now, kind of thing, to kind of see like what might have happened for there. So there must be some sort of merit to it. But again, yeah, it's neither here nor there, I suppose. We're just waxing poetic at this time.
I think it really comes down to definitions. Sooner or later, some organization or other is going to have to tackle the definition of what, aging, resting, in glass, in wood, whatever. I mean, it just has to be defined, and that is still lacking to this point, I think.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. All right, people aren't drinking anymore, so we'll pick up the second last one here. This is another one I'm pretty happy with. We've had this one in the store for a little while, actually. Like it came in 12 packs, and I'm always hesitant to buy as a store we're not always like we don't always buy these big high valued rums in 12 packs, but I was so happy with the sample that I was given of this that I had to get it in. So the bottler of this, he's a friend of the shop now, actually, because he's come to visit a few times, but his name is Carl Mudzamba. I'm sure I was butchering that one, but it's Bira is the name of his bottling company. It's just him and his wife. They live in Vancouver, and she ultimately has usually the go ahead, but he's bringing in these samples. He's and he's tasting it, and he's doing his own bottling. So this is the first of 3 that he's done so far. In the future, he's hoping to do some things like cachaças and stuff like that. But at the moment, we have this beautiful 12-year-old South Pacific. It is a vatting of 9 barrels. It is watered down to its 55%, just by water, no sweetness or no adulteration. Yeah, it's a fresh cane juice rum from the South Pacific Distillery, which is, I think, the dominant distillery on Fiji. I don't know other ones on Fiji myself. I think that might be the only one. Or now maybe there's distilleries everywhere, so there's probably a bunch more now. If you've had things like the Plantation Fiji, that is the same distillery. In fact, Plantation's bottle that says Fiji on it is one of the reasons why they actually allowed Carl to put the actual distillery on it. It's like, so people won't get it conflated, I suppose. Yeah. So anyways, this is fresh cane juice. I think it's like kind of, I don't know too much about its distillation, but I think there's some prolonged fermentation on there, because there's definitely a little hit of those nice fruity esters. But
so is this a special one? Because most of South Pacific's I thought was molasses based, that they got left over from the sugar factory next door.
that might be a question for Lance if he knows, because I actually am not sure.
I did some research into South Pacific Distillery, but it seems like they use molasses for most of their history, but that didn't stop them from trying to work with cane juice at the same time. And right now it's a little difficult to get information out of there, because all you get is business stuff, but you don't get procedural or production information. And I tried calling them a couple of months ago, and yeah, they just weren't telling me anything. So I think they use both, is essentially what this is coming down to.
Yeah, totally.
These definitely smell a lot like Brettanomyces to me. These are
A little funk, a little funk on it, yeah.
In a different way than.
This gets a bit more grassy and herbal for me. It's a little bit more almost floral, like hitting on that. Yeah. A little bit of olive juice on there, like that weird kind of like briny like note.
I really like this one too.
Yeah, this is really pretty. Sammy says it smells like paint thinner.
Good price, 150.
Mhm.
Yeah, I feel like South Pacific has a really distillate that really like pulls out a lot of that tannic notes from the wood, and so it's easy to get like big baking spice noses mixed in with sort of that funk. And I find a lot of bottlers tend to bring down the South Pacific stuff because it gets very woody and tannic at sort of cask strength levels. So it's fascinating, but I think they make amazing distillate, generally speaking.
Yeah.
So.
Well, this one is like I'm so impressed with this one. I really adore it. It's
so olivey though, right? Like
it is, yeah, it's still got a little bit of that rubber kind of industrial note on the palate. There's definitely more brine on there.
Yeah.
You get a bit of that wood. I don't know if it's like smoke from a wood char or whatever kind of that it might have been in there, but do you know if it's column still or pot still?
Pot still, I believe.
This one is pot because it says so on the bottle.
Oh, does it really? Oh, I don't.
Yeah.
Here, let you take a look. Oh yeah, right here.
Oh yeah, there we go. Yeah,
Okay.
of course, duh.
I cheated. I looked early before the session started.
All right, so what do we got here for people going on? Being from South Africa, I wish you would have included the other beer from South Africa. Yeah, that's fair. Sorry about that, Kevin. I mean, I like that one too. Maybe I'll try and feature that in a future tasting. That one's a bit more intense than this one. I think I saw that you asked what the difference was. Yeah. The MOBA, I don't know how to pronounce it, but the South African is, sorry?
Mohoba.
Mahoba. Okay, there we go. That one there, it's a little younger. Like they're only about 4 years old because I think they only started distilling in like 2017. I think. They're also like fresh cane juice for the most part, but that one is way more intense in its esters. It was a lot more. It was very vegetal. I found it was like you're kind of like eating an experimental fruit cocktail that had like kind of like past its prime vegetables on it, like kind of carrot juice poured on and stuff. It's really interesting, but I really enjoyed it. It had some really nice like honeyed cane syrup on the base though. Really beautiful. And I don't think Kevin, I think you're out of town, but if you ever make it in over the next little bit, I've got one open and you're welcome to come taste it.
We could always just tuck a cheeky sample into one of his tastings.
Good call. Yeah, we could totally do that. Ryan says the nose is funky, but the taste is totally surprising, delicious. Yeah, I agree. It's less funky on the palate, but the fruits really erupt a little bit more there.
Mhm.
Wet dog, yeah, that's funny, Ken.
Wet dog. I like that you use it in gasoline. That's a good note
Yeah, neat.
because it's fruity and juicy.
I'm digging it. Creme de caramel.
Juicy.
With steeped in lemongrass. Hey, cool note, Eli. Nice.
What do you say?
He says creme caramel.
Yeah.
But if the milk was steeped in lemongrass.
Yeah.
Kurt, did you throw any notes up there?
Give me some Kurt notes.
Kurt's are above mine.
Oh, that's good, Andrew.
What? And there's turmeric, turpentine, black licorice. Yeah, licorice,
That's
totally.
really good. Really good.
Sean, the key though is the black licorice was dipped in boursin.
I don't know what boursin is.
Boursin is that like creamy cheese with like pepper in it.
Oh
Kurt,
yeah,
hard note.
yeah.
It's way
yeah.
too-
That's
it's
what
way
Michelle
too
just said. It's
fancy for Crystal.
shit cheese.
Kurt, you have hard notes. Ozone. So good. Kurt has the hardest notes. Oh my God. At least you're so honest too. It tastes like I want less of it. So gotta be honest, right? Right. Bird Electronics for sure. That's the ozone of Bird Electronics for
Yeah,
sure,
totally.
right? Yeah.
So you don't like it as much, Kurt? Is that what that means?
Aloe for sure. Aloe's good. Yeah.
That's fair. That's fair. Interesting.
Now
Yeah.
you're saying though, yeah. Because
It's interesting enough, and these are the kind of rums I actually chase. So Sean, we've discussed this a lot, and Lance is probably going to go from 6 to midnight when I say this here. But I've kind of fallen for a lot of these rums, right? There's some really cool stuff. There's a breadth of flavor profiles that the only comparable we can make, as we discussed, is single malt Scotch whiskey, where there's so many variables, so many unique and individualistic styles, and regions actually seem to matter in a lot of cases, which is kind of fun too. But these are a kind of rum that Sean's been able to bring in over the last little while that we never had in our market. And they're actually exciting.
Wow.
They're actually like a really cool category that I don't think enough people are giving enough credit to. And I'm a guy that has typically struggled with rum because of what we've been spoon fed here with sugared out the yin yang kind of nastiness. So these are way, way, way more fun. Even the ones I don't love, they're the kind of rums I want to drink.
Oh man, I'm
Right,
so
right.
excited you say that.
Yeah,
I'm so excited.
yeah, man, that's wicked. That's such a good comment.
Plus, they're still affordable, right? I mean, the bourbon craze or the price craze hasn't entirely hit rums yet. To some extent, it has,
Yeah, to
right?
some
But
extent.
not quite to the same extent.
Yeah.
I don't-
I mean, there's still some bargains out there if you know where to look. I think honestly, at $150, I think this one's actually quite a good value. I'm really enjoying the flavors on it. And I mean, honestly, again, you just don't see, I guess I don't really see a lot of Fiji out there either. So, I mean, that's kind of fun.
Yeah, I think the prices are crazy for me. I'm not into it. But
I think that Trinidad, I wish I had a little bit more in the store because it also, like, I think we paid what, like 190 for it or something like that, which is also just, I think it's pretty dangerous for what it is.
Yeah, I'm surprised that sold so fast. You said you don't have any more left?
No, I think we might have actually gone through 2 cases of it.
That's
Wow.
amazing because, I mean, if it was Corona, I would completely understand.
Oh,
But
for sure.
TDL is like, I mean, it's like, you know,
It's a dime a
Bacardi
dozen.
of Trinidad, right? A dime a dozen.
Sean, you're not talking about the Bira being sold out, are you?
No, the Fernandez.
The Fernandez rum.
Because I was gonna say, as owner, I happen to notice it says low stock on there. So we don't want to take away those potential buyers.
Oh yeah,
But
no, we'll get more.
Fernandez is totally gone, so.
That is such an amazing thing. But okay, great. It was good that you sold it then.
And I
can
think
get
with
that for
this one,
sure.
having a bit more in the bottle that I can pour for people is actually like, I think that'll help it up because I'd love getting this in people's hands for sure.
Big time. Yeah.
Yeah. What did Benny say? Here's a distant chlorine swimming pool in the finish. Cool.
Yeah, I get that. I get that.
That little
get it.
kind of,
I
yeah,
get
yeah.
the ozone chlorine kind of, electronic note. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think they're all the same. Yeah.
Nice.
I get it. Yeah.
Cool. All right. Who's ready to go to the
Distant
last
chlorine.
one there?
Distant chlorine's good.
So this is one I was a little kind of hesitant about because it's definitely pretty big. Oh, it's so interesting.
Oh, here.
And I do love it. I think it's just so cool.
Oh,
Ouch.
You can take a little bit.
No.
Yeah, the comparison is just amazing to see
Yeah.
this now come through the door.
I know, right? This is not the only one that's like this, but it's definitely that we've seen so far. But it's definitely like there's not that many yet. I've ended up buying a few. Like I've been on this weird thing where I ended up buying a bunch of like of unaged rums that happen to be stupid high ester, and I almost regret it after opening the first one. But it's the kind of thing that I just have to open it and leave the bottle for a while and just let it tamp down just a tiny little bit, you know.
Oh God, yeah.
this one a good choice.
Yeah.
When you put it
In the meantime, I can like use it for daiquiris and stuff like that, and it works out really nice actually.
like this. Easy.
Oh, it's so briny on the nose.
Don't.
It's so olive heavy. It's so crazy.
You should try some of the unaged stuff from Oaxaca down in Mexico. I've tried some of their unaged pot still distillates from those little trapiches they got down there.
Do you remember-
Jesus.
Do you remember any of the names of the distilleries or anything like that? Is it like no?
What's that?
Is it Prohibitus? No.
Prohibido. I know which one you're talking about. Yeah, yeah.
I
But
think
it's
there's a couple coming up here, either now or it is making its way up, and I haven't looked at it yet, but yeah.
yeah, generally they're called charandas, but there's small individual distilleries that just call them aguardientes and go with that and don't bother to get. But they're all these little small village distilleries like Clarence are in Haiti, and there's this little company in the UK which puts them out. I bought everything they had, right? And they have these little simple white labels with green lettering on them, and they only have like 150 bottles at a pop. But man, oh man, that stuff is just
Very neat. I mean, I gotta say, like, there's definitely parts of me that love tasting it regardless. Whether or not I can go through a full bottle is tough. Like, I've got. I mean, I bought the bottle before I got the sample. I got a Savannah, like an old white Savannah hair sitting there, but it's like it's almost too intense for me. Same with like some of the unaged Clarence can be a little bit wonky as well. It's just a little bit, I don't know. I mean, I love them, but I don't know. I'm getting there. Yeah. What do we got here so far? Embalming fluid at a Build-A-Bear workshop. That's funny. That's so good. A sack of pounding assholes. All right, Kurt.
There's a real weight.
Oh man, Kurt hates it so much.
Yeah.
Sugared olives, yeah, good call, Benny. Man, it's so olive heavy. That's so cool. Jar of green olives on the nose. Smells like we're all getting cancer tonight. It's really good. Sorry, guys. Sorry, guys. I'm trying.
It does.
Smells like we're getting cancer tonight. Man, sticking your nose in that is really rough initially. Yeah. Cleaned corn. Yeah, cool. That vegetal tone totally like kind of leans into, yeah, you're right. A little bit into corn.
So good. Weighs a good note.
Because it smells like butter and oil.
Andrew wins the internet. Sweet dough on the palate. You love it or you hate it. Yeah, that's true. Well, so but you guys have started tasting it though, right? Like it's less intense on the palate. You're getting a little bit more that cane spirit on there. So I didn't really talk much about this one, I guess. O Resinho, I'm pretty sure is how you call it. Well, this is only the second Portuguese rum I've ever had. It's off of the Isle of Madeira, which is owned by Portugal. The last one we had was another boutique one from the I can't remember what you call it now. Enjos de North. There we go. And that one had a little bit more age on it, and that one was absolutely brilliant. It was actually my favorite of the last tasting. So it made me really excited to bring this one in. And plus, Peter from that tasting also recommended, like he was talking about just how much he loved this one. So I was so excited when I saw it. Yeah, I'll give him all of your comments next time if he makes it out to another tasting with us. But yeah, I think this one's pot still as well. It is, like I said, fresh cane juice as well. I don't know if they're using Dunner, but it's got to be a long fermentation on this. Like I just don't see any other way for it. But this is more reminiscent to some of those crazy esters that I was talking about, that like some of them are high, but this one is like high and this one is funky. And I don't know, I think this might be, this is the kind of thing, I think it might be up Doug's alley. Oh,
Almost like cream.
and just putting together a poll here.
So much
That was premature. I just.
Yeah, no worries.
So.
Creamed corn. Are you sure that's rum? Ryan says. Yeah, I'm sure. Caper fruits.
Caper,
Dude, I'm loving these notes. These are so good. Caper fruits covered in goat cheese, doused in apricot jam.
Super goat cheese, right?
The note is like finding a new species. Finding a new species of tiny red frog in the Amazon.
Holy fuck.
It's so good.
Why would you drink this? Seriously, I'd rather drink the juice of
Oh,
canned
guys, you
fish.
guys are being so harsh on this.
Sure, I love canned fish though. I don't know if that's
I have to say the nose is the palate's remarkably drinkable, given the nose was doing everything it could evolutionarily to tell us not to drink this.
oh my god. So awesome.
Right. So, like, and there's a comments that both Eli and I have had, like, where like the tasting note is danger.
Like, think Sterling Archer and daiquiris. Like he would be all over
Yeah, I
this.
really like
totally.
that. That's awesome. Yeah.
So Rich says it's the best vermouth he's ever had. That's interesting. Yeah, like just how kind of herbaceous it is and everything. Yeah. Eli says doesn't compare to the Holmes K Mahoba. Yeah, that's true. Pinch your nose first. Yeah, Eli. Yeah. Oh man, so cool. Anyways, like so. This is I wouldn't say that this is where things are going or anything like that. I would love to have a little bit more like this in the store. I would like to have some stuff like that that has had a little bit more age, that we can see what kind of the mellowing does to some of those esters. Like I know Doug knows what we're talking about, to say like Savannah Grind aroma stuff. Like you got like those huge high esters that have had a lot of time to kind of mellow out. They're still funky as all hell, but they're not as panic inducing, I guess, for a lack of a better way of putting it.
The esters die in a bottle at all?
Yeah, I think they mellow out a little bit in aged rums. Like the esters are still really high. And actually, funny enough, like this speaks to, so during our Christmas party just a couple of weeks ago, Andrew was really nice enough to bring this 60-year-old Long Pond from like 1941. And like Long Pond is also a reason, like originally they were never like super high ester, but they've started making some marks that are higher ester. And after 60 years and being bottled like at like 2000, and then another 15 years, the esters were still actually pretty robust, but they were soft, and they really turned out into something that was really like, I don't know, it matched savory and fruity. It had leathery notes. It was just, oh man, it's really cool. And I have a feeling like, just like when you leave peat in barrel for a long time and it fades away, those really cool high ester rums, when they start getting on in age, I just think they're really cool.
Whiskey Sponge released a 29-year-old Hampton that even after 29 years, at one of the higher ester marks was just almost.
Is that the one that you have?
Yeah, well, no, I've
Yeah.
only got the 19. I
Oh,
think
okay.
that Devin had the 29, but like it's just it's insane that even that much time in the barrel, and oxygen still can't kill that insane flavor or whatever.
I mean, it doesn't fade in the sense that they disappear or like fade away, but they're definitely a little easier to take. Like, yeah, the younger it is, it's fiery. And it matches that crazy, like that crazy raw cane spirit tone, which is also like, I don't know, it's also not like the most elegant thing out there. So it's just like, it's an assault to the senses as you can already see. Primordial soup. Cool. I loved reading through your guys' tasting notes on that. It was really fantastic.
That was least favorite, probably.
Yeah, I
Hey,
think so.
Sean, this lineup is killer. Super fun lineup. I can't remember the last time I had this much just goofy ass fun listening to people talk and stuff and absolutely learning a ton of stuff. And I can't remember the last time we had a comment section that was that engaged. That was really cool. Well done, man.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, thanks, man. Yeah, I was surprised at just how much chatter there was. It's great, and I like having like like people from all walks of life come in and kind of like share their notes here and like chat with me a little bit, and even in real time, those of you who've like who unmuted yourself and whatnot. That was really excellent. Mm. I think like not to put you guys under any pressure or anything like that, but I think Andrew has a oh, sorry, Lance, let me unmute you here.
Yeah, and Sean, we can always go back through these one more time just to see how they change.
That's
But
true.
I do want to say this, like, I mean, there's a few rums in here that I think are really, really cool. A few that, raise questions for me. But I have to say, like, I know you were on it. This is not I thought that one boutique tasting we did had way more home runs on it for me than this one did. And I think maybe Kevin did that one. Like, I don't know if anyone else here did that rum tasting,
Jeff.
but
Yeah, Jeff.
including the white, like that white rum that we had in that was crazy good.
That was so good.
One of the best white rums. No, probably the best white rum I've ever had in my life.
Yeah, that's the one. Doug's got it there.
Wow.
Yeah.
Really
So anyway, that tasting kind of changed my perspective on rums because I remember back when I was hosting these tastings at the shop because there was literally no one else. And I was talking about Appleton and, El Dorado, and those were the exciting ones. And then there's Zaya and just a bunch of other garbage.
Andrew, didn't you go on cycling tours in like South America though?
In Guatemala, I went on a mountain bike trip down there. I tried to visit the Zaya distillery, but I was told it wasn't safe. So I
fair.
didn't go. Yeah.
Yeah, it's fun that I'm able to do stuff like this now. I love the expansion and selection. I do hope that there's a few. I really hope there's a few more styles and labels that we'll see in the province soon. But I guess we're up to the mercy of the importers in that. Yeah, and I mean, I guess on the other hand, I mean, like meeting fun people that I can trade samples with really kind of like like helps me tailor what I want to put in these as well and what I can put in the store. I think in Alberta, at least, I don't think this is going to slow down for a little bit. I think we're going to see, even if it's just a little bit of growth, because I mean, I guess everyone's kind of doom and gloom right now about recession and whatnot. But I mean, I think we're still going to see it over the next year or two. We're going to see a lot of things that we just haven't seen in the past. I'm going to be able to do a lot more of these, which is fun too. Yeah, I don't know.
But Andrew, you say that at the beginning when you were doing these things, and it was sort of like a hit and miss kind of thing where you had the Appletons and the Zayas and the Zacapa 23s. But I was there at the beginning when you were starting to run these things. Remember the raucous rums that you used to do?
Yeah.
And I remember that you brought out Rum Nation to my attention, and you had the Renegades as well, the early Renegades that they did when they were doing the advanced cask maturation or evolution or whatever they call it, that told Mark Rainier that there was a possibility here that this could lead to something better. And then, of course, that led to eventually him founding the Renegade Distillery in Grenada just a couple of
And
years ago.
possibly blowing all the money he made from selling Bruichladdich.
Well, yeah, that's entirely
Well,
possible.
I guess he did blow a lot of it in Ireland too, but still.
True. All
no,
I'm saying
you
is
know-
that you did have good stuff, and it's just that you were, and the shop to some extent was ahead of the curve, and there weren't enough people doing this kind of thing or understanding what was going on, and it's just changing now.
Yeah, no, there was some really cool rums from Rum Nation, Wilson and Morgan, older bottlings, like the Wilson and Morgan ones were really cool. But yeah, I mean, I think when I go back to it, I kind of lost heart in it because after a while, most of them just tasted very similar.
Yeah.
And except for those weird independent bottlings that we would occasionally come by.
Yeah, indeed. And it was worth waiting for those, but it's taken a long time.
Yeah. There's been some cool society rums over the years. Some of them too, like borderline almost undrinkable at like 75 or 82% alcohol. But no, we've seen some cool stuff over the years.
Yeah, indeed.
Some of the Cadenheads are really awesome. We had some really ancient Trinidadies from Cadenhead back when Hunter was running the helm.
Yeah.
And I don't know, like even back then you saw Corona here and there, much more readily available than it is now, and at prices that are a little bit better. They were still pretty high, but yeah, it was definitely but I distinctly remember it being kind of ahead of its time in the way that Hunter would make a lineup with just all of those Cadenheads that were kind of weird and off the beaten path. And he would fill up a whole tasting, and people would be disappointed after the fact because nothing was sweet, nothing was like they think.
They wanted Florida Canyon.
Yeah,
Exactly.
they did.
Yeah. And it's unfortunate, but I mean, that is just like, I guarantee you that there's people in the past few tastings that I would have done here that were of the same ilk. They were just like, no, I expected something else. And that's fine. It's what we've been tailored to. It's just what we've had for the past decade. How many decades? Like, yeah, I get it. I'm just glad we can kind of do other things now.
Me too.
Well, I'm in now that I'm back, I'm definitely into anything that you put out there. So, just keep me in the loop. I'll make sure I attend.
Yeah, totally. I appreciate. I appreciate you sitting in on this. It's definitely wonderful to have someone with such a wealth of knowledge to just kind of dip in and fill any voids that I might have, or some of these distilleries that we just don't have a lot of information on. I mean, like I'm sure you've got you do have almost literally an encyclopedia on all of it. So I mean,
Oh,
yeah.
God, yeah.
Yeah, fun.
I know Ryan there was just made a point about changing his perspective on rums here, but Ryan, there's some really cool stuff. Rum Nation as well. We get some cool stuff from Rum Nation that's gonna hit that price point. Like a lot of it's at or under $100. Some of the ones that we tried here tonight are definitely pushing that up, but between Rum Nation and the boutique rum company, we've got some pretty good value, unique rums, definitely worth checking out. Yeah, I was blown away. I know there was another comment here to do another boutique rum tasting. I would love to do that because their rum brand ambassador is pretty entertaining. He's a good dude. But we probably need to get a handful more new rums before we can set up another tasting. But yeah, definitely check those out because there are some cool stuff there.
Yeah, I think. Well, yeah, you meant you. Oh, sorry. Nope, lost train of thought. Never mind.
All right, Sean, do you want to walk us back through these one last time just to refresh people's memories, and then we'll trigger a vote?
So I don't know if you guys have it in your glass still or not, but right. So the first one we had was the it's called Rasta Morris is the bottler, but their rum line they call Rasta Morris. Funny enough, and he also has a just as a funny note, he's also has like Calvados and Armagnacs and cognacs that he calls Rasta Morris.
Really?
Yeah.
Cool. Did you get those?
Yeah, we got those. Yeah.
It's you got to appreciate subtle humor, even if they are like dad jokes.
Still super mellow.
Yeah.
maybe a little bit more apple, like kind of, actually there, it feels a little bit more eau de vie like for me.
Yeah.
Like it's got notes of like Armagnac almost,
Yeah, I like
and
that.
Calvados maybe, like a little bit of appley note.
Too much oak for me.
Yeah, still big wood,
Yeah.
big wood, yeah.
But I like those. That's a really good call on those.
I'm not gonna go too, I'm not gonna, I'll go medium quick here. And then the next one, the Foursquare, the Rum Sponge Foursquare.
And the nose on that really got nice after standing
Yeah.
for a while.
Yeah,
A little bit,
it's super funky now.
a little bit more wood on there too, like the wood's kind of like come out a little bit creeped up,
right. It has come out a lot.
more fruit. Well,
Travelers.
Maybe Pal's not compact.
the palate started coming through with more like almost like a chili pepper note in a way, like. No, not. I don't know what that is. Some sort of like pickled cauliflower or something weird, interesting, very cool.
That's really good. Pickle.
The next one we had was the Belize, the Travelers. Valinch Mallet. Still very similar. It doesn't seem to evolve too much. Maybe a little bit more industrial.
Someone talked about this being, I don't know if it was this one or a different one, being very whiskey-like, but this is very whiskey-like to me on the palate.
Yeah. Yeah, more of those like a kind of like a sherried whiskey kind of. Or maybe a virgin oak whiskey.
Very forward.
So far, don't you think? When you stay
Yeah,
together.
that's got like the spice of like a bourbon or something on the palate.
It's cool, nice. Next one was the the Clarendon, Rum Sponge Clarendon.
I feel like
Lance-
this is my favorite of the night. I just love the nose and palate on this. It's just like so crisp and clean, and in many ways like the opposite of like some of the big Hamptons and South Pacifics that I often love. But I just think it's beautiful and so clean.
I got a question for Lance.
Mhm.
Why does so many Jamaican rums have notes of catheter tubes and like bicycle inner tubes?
Okay, Andrew, Jesus, that's so good. Now you
Maybe they're just saving it up
That's
to
like a mystic
strangle the
case.
what was it, the last priest? I don't know. I couldn't tell you, but it's all part of their thing to just do the long fermentations, get those congeners going, and then it of course kind of like just all goes in a similar direction after a while. I mean, you won't find it in Appleton really, you know, because they tend to be much more middle of the road and to the broader palate. But the newer distilleries, the estates, Clarendon, Long Pond, Moneymusket, and Worthy Park, the ones that try to go for the high end of the premium market, I mean, they just go wild with this stuff, and the crazier it is, the happier they are.
Yeah, I still get like a rubbery note from the Appleton rums, but
You
maybe
do?
not quite as
Really?
big. Yeah, it's kind of like the terroir of Jamaica. Every rum is going to have a little hint of rubber in there, from a little bit to a lot, and that seems to be the one kind of thing that ties them all together, regardless of style.
I've said this many times in the shop, and you're gonna laugh because I said He-Man dolls earlier, but Jamaican rums to me are almost always like the smell of a warm Barbie doll. Like it's been heated up, it's in the sun or whatever. It's got those weird plasticky kind of. Yeah, I know. Chuckle.
Sorry, of a what?
A warm Barbie doll, like how that rubber smells.
Yeah,
Jamaican rum.
I think what Kurt's trying to say is that, unlike myself, he allowed his daughters to play with toys that objectify women. I think that's what I would.
Ouch. I'm glad you went there instead of saying I played with Barbie dolls when I was younger. Or something.
Actually, I was going to do that, but you picked me
Hey,
on
know
this.
that.
My cousins were girls. What can I say? G.I. Joe met Barbie a couple nights. You know, it happens. No, those Jamaicans, warm Barbies and spent electronics again. Like you just burnt out or fried a computer and also.
The finish on this actually after resting is like really licorice forward, I'm finding.
It's fascinating because most of the Jamaican distilleries, at least that are using pot stills, are using the double thumpers, right? So it's like it's a single process, but a triple distillation, and so they're so short that you're getting so much more of those, and they're taking wider cuts often of sort of those congeners and esters that are just getting over each one of the distillations, and they're charging up the second and third distillation with dunder generally as well. So
Oh,
there's so much that makes it through that process that even after a triple distillation through pot stills, you're still getting a ton of other stuff in there.
Sorry,
So
Doug, did you say they go deeper in the cut?
So sorry. I heard both of you at the same
Kurt,
time.
Kurt, go ahead.
Did you say they go deeper into the spirit cut?
So it depends, and there isn't a ton of transparency with it, so I don't know for sure, but it's generally you're getting even if you're taking narrower cuts, there's so much that make it over the line arms because they're all you know pretty severe down line arms, right? So as soon as you make it up and over, and they're not tall, and then you're making it into the thumpers, which are basically just sort of like these almost like column pot stills, and it's all a single process, right? So you don't have to, unlike pot stills in Scotland, where you're cleaning it out after every time. It's a single process through pot distillation.
So I'd like to hear Andrew's take on this, because to me, there was a few of these whiskeys that the back end was all full of those like
Rums.
electronic ozone notes and stuff. It's phenols, and phenols, when you go deeper into your run, that's when you concentrate them. That's what Ardbeg has done, is to take those bigger phenols and stuff, so they extended their spirit run back into what would typically be the faints, right? So would you think these rums that are really ozony, really electrical smelling and stuff are ones that have gone deeper into those fainty notes in the back end then?
That's a good question. Yeah, I guess you're asking, like, are they going lower in their cut in terms of alcohol? Because there's some distilleries where you start getting into kind of fishy, tobacco-y, earthy notes by cutting lower in your heart. So could be.
It's really interesting. Privateer rum actually does a fascinating distillate where they call it the Queen Share.
Queen Share, yeah.
Yeah, and basically they're taking, they do 3 different marks based on 3 different sort of original things, but they're basically getting that sort of like right when you're getting the hearts into the tails, they capture that, which has a ton of flavor for all 3 of the distillations, set it aside, and then redistill it all together and then release it. And so it's super batchy depending on which of the 3 marks are the most prevalent in it. But allegedly back in the day, this is where the most flavor was, and so you would do an extra distillation with that sort of initial tails run and get something that was very, very rich and full of flavor. So I literally just picked this up in California like a week ago, so I'm excited to crack it at some point, but it'll be fascinating.
Shutting up.
I was sorry. I was gonna ask, like, Doug, like with those thumpers, if they're heated or what. That's interesting. I actually didn't know that, and I didn't really put it together that it would be like, yeah, like almost combo distillation, but more repetitive distillation, I suppose. I guess to what Kurt was asking too, like, I guess part of the difference would be, obviously you're not necessarily getting phenols here, because I don't know where those phenols would come from. Like there's probably some in that melange of chemicals, but obviously you're not introducing those other things to it. Typically deeper in gives you more congeners though, which are more of the, I think a lot more of the flavor compounds or like the deeper flavor compounds are concentrated, if I remember correctly, are concentrated in that portion. But there's also a lot of impurities in there, which might actually make you feel pretty shitty later on. But
yeah, very much so. And again, it's just the technology, like, ancient Scottish technology where, you've got hydrometers in sort of your spirit safe is not the same at all in the rum world. And so a lot of it is just based on smell or the odd taste or whoever sort of the stillman is that day. So even as you're getting to these larger distilleries, you can actually see some different cut points and some different flavor profiles coming through, and they're not often separated. And even the stuff that are single casks that we see with independent bottlers are sort of, you know, blends of, you know, tens or hundreds of casks that are sent over and then sort of re-racked into wood and then sort of gain their differentiation as they mature from there. So it's hard to know that for sure, but you're starting to see some of the distilleries releasing some really interesting single stuff that's 100% tropical matured. And that's often why Velier is so loved, right? Is, you know, most folks will take the spirit and send it to their bottling hall. Literally, Velier will ship their bottles to the distillery and have them bottle it there so that everything is in there and then ship the bottles back out again. And so it's a huge extra cost, but
Yeah.
it just goes to that purity of being 100% tropical matured and not needing to come over to sort of, you know, European bottling halls.
I'm counting down the days where we can see something from Velier in Alberta too, but who knows?
Oh, well, that I think actually from what I'm hearing is that they're going to start selectively withdrawing from the US market. And if that happens, they've never even really been here. Do you really think that given the craziness of the laws around this country that they're going to waste their time trying to come in here? I don't know. You'd sooner see some of the smaller independents like 1423 make a push into Ontario and BC, but
Right.
really beyond that.
The thing with Alberta though is like we can reach out to try and make contract. Well, not we, but importers, they can try and out and like reach out and make contracts because it's not just a Canada-wide thing, right? It would just be the Alberta market, and they don't have to do all that much. So it's I don't know. Who knows?
I talked to Luca about this a few years ago when I was in Genoa, and he said he was kind of like thinking about it, but he says the bureaucratic hurdles, even in Alberta, were still not something he wanted at that time to try. So who knows what's happening?
Literally, that's total bullshit. Literally, he needs to sign a letter to an agent. The agent needs to pay a $75 registration fee per SKU, and then he can bring them in. There's no testing, like there's no bureaucracy. It's just, you literally just have to register an agency in the SKU and you can bring the product in. So
I will tell him. It's been a long time since we had that conversation, so I don't know what
this
changed
is
since then.
literally there's a cost,
The Wild West over here.
admittedly, but literally this is the easiest jurisdiction in North America to import alcohol into.
For sure.
And he sold it to La Maison de Whiskey now, right? Who do already have distribution in Alberta.
Oh,
So-
I didn't know that.
I didn't know they
No,
did.
he's in a partnership with them. Let's be careful. He and
Well, no,
Thierry
they-
Denita basically work together, right?
No, they bought part of his company.
Who bought who? Who bought who?
La Maison de Whiskey bought part of Velier. And so,
Okay.
or a majority of it at some point in the last couple of years, but regardless, they certainly have continue to extend their partnership. So
That's for sure.
Interesting. Well, I mean, potential, I suppose. Hopefully, fingers crossed.
we kind of lost track here and I had a
Yeah,
good note.
totally.
So we all
I had
know.
a good note on the Fernandez.
Yeah, we were on the Fernandez.
It
Absolutely.
was like at one point, the nose to me smelled like a stale baguette that you dipped in water.
Still,
Really good, Andrew. Really good note.
I'm getting more. I'm getting a little bit more of those like those petrol-y notes,
Yeah,
but
they're coming out for sure.
the more fruit too. This is like more. Oh, I don't know. This is kind of like
The
Like,
palate's so
right,
licoricey
yeah.
now. It's like those licorice candies you get in old fashioned Italian restaurants.
It's so mellow. This is such a pretty drink. Oh, I love it so much.
Yeah, it's very pretty.
Well,
Yeah, Kevin says chlorine notes. Yeah.
Yeah, there's chlorine for sure. I get that. Yeah.
I might be getting a little too on, and then I took pick that up.
all right, the Bira, Sean.
Bira, South Pacific. Oh,
It's like black market duct tape.
yeah, kind of. It's got a little bit more of a weird.
What?
Yeah, plasticky, almost Canadian Tire like note.
Okay, black market duct tape.
As opposed to what? Legal duct tape?
Brand name duct tape.
What's,
You know, like-
they don't have rules to follow. The palate though is still like, there's like this one too, like there's tons and tons of like black licorice, strawberry Twizzlers on the palate on this one too.
Not the strawberry for sure, yeah, I like that.
You know, and when I'm doing mezcal tastings, like it's a very common thread between a lot of them is not Sharpie, but off-brand Sharpie.
I get that. I get that. It's the kind of Sharpie where you know they haven't tested it for harmful chemicals that may or may not cause cancer down the line.
And it probably won't last as long either. The tip is gonna get all mushy like right away.
Oh my
Like-
god.
That's good.
Well, I'm on to the last one, and it's now nosing like the dry erase cleaning solution for like whiteboards.
Yes,
Oh,
I just have a
that's
touch.
pretty good.
that was on this, oh, I don't want this one.
You know, I love that. I still love how pronounced like the cane juice note is on it.
Oh, you're right,
Oh man.
not my favorite, but you're right though, it is.
It's
like-
kind
it
of
is cane
it's
juice,
kind of
right?
farmy. It's kind
That is nice.
of like hay and yeah.
It's so different too, you're right, you're right, it's cane juice.
I think my dog would really like the palate on this one.
Like heated canola.
Seriously?
Well, it's like a random pool of water that you don't know how long it's been sitting for.
Like when you heat canola oil, it breaks down those oil.
Oh, interesting. Yeah,
that's
yeah.
this kind of
Like
stuff.
overheat, like oil at its smoke point. That's what
Like
Brian
cano-
was saying.
like
Really
canola,
cool.
Especially canola oil.
Yeah. It's really olivey still, like
Yeah, it is
really,
very- it is
really
olive
olivey.
for sure, yeah.
Yeah, that hasn't faded at all. I
No,
like
it's not
that
my
though.
favorite,
Cool.
but I appreciate the.
Ah, so neat. Oh
Sean,
man,
it's so good.
I love it.
All right,
It's slowly growing on me, that style.
I'm gonna trigger the poll, but before I do it, I'm going to remove co-host from a few people here so they can vote. Otherwise, we're not gonna have a ton of votes here.
Right,
So-
totally.
Eli, Lance, Doug. You guys all get to vote now, I think.
Thank you.
Here we go. We're gonna relaunch the poll. So you should have it in front of you now.
This is so cool.
The rums may or may not be in order. I'm not really sure here, so they appear to be so far.
Yeah, they
Are
are.
both of them on the same poll here? First place, second place? Oh yeah, cool.
Yeah,
Great.
you get to vote twice.
Nice.
So do you vote? Okay, wait, I can't.
Well, so we can't do it because we're.
Oh,
we're,
okay,
yeah.
okay. I'm curious
We
what
can
this
just
is.
say after, yeah.
Well, the votes are rolling in. Well, you know what, Sean, we can ask you right now, what were your favorites tonight?
Oh my gosh. That's a tough one. I liked a lot of tonight's rums. I'm gonna say my first place, I think I have to say the South Pacific. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was just beautiful. And my second place is the Fernandez.
Oh,
Really?
wow, okay.
I love those two. I thought they were so wonderful.
You know what's totally blowing my mind here is that boutique O Rosino that is
Man, people are voting
That-
for it. It's
that
tied for
smells
first.
that smells like death.
Jesus.
like- Is tied for first. That is
I don't get it.
Because unique.
I mean, I do like it. Don't get me wrong. I like it.
Why is it one?
Yeah, so here we go. Here's if you can see him. So the Clarendon and the O Rosino tied for first, and then the Four Square, the Travelers, and the Fernandez all showed really well. And then the second time round, everybody gets a vote. So this is a little bit like gym class when we were we lads, and you'd get the participation patches. Everybody gets an award, but yeah. Anyway,
You know
Sean,
what?
those were your favorites.
Oh.
I have to say, have you shared the results or no?
Oh, sorry, I thought I had shared them. There we go. Now everyone can see them.
I am absolutely flabbergasted. So even though the Orzinho is tied for first in the first one,
It also won the
second place, which
Yeah.
kind of probably, like if we were doing a ranked choice voting, would probably bring it out on top.
Big time.
Dude, it was on top. It's on top for sure.
That's crazy.
Wow.
I would not have thought.
Neither.
All right, I want to hear from Lance and Doug, starting with Lance. Lance, what were your favorites in the lineup tonight?
The Clarendon got first for me. The Orizino and the Four Square were tied for second, with the South Pacific going for third, and then everything else kind of like trailed in behind it. I know that Sean, you like the Fernandez quite a bit, but to me, compared to the others on show here tonight, which by the way was a really stellar selection, just didn't quite match up. Although it ranked high, it just wasn't, the top three for me.
All right, Douglas. Oh, I gotta unmute you. Just a second here. I gotta fix that. Where are we here? Doug has to unmute.
There we go. Thank you. It's interesting. The Clarendon was my favorite of the night. I just think it was in some lovely, likely fairly dead wood, and was just able to oxidize to just a beautiful point. I actually had the Fernandez number 2, which shocked me, because normally I thought South Pacific I would go crazy for, or something like that, and it was beautiful. It was probably my number 3 of the night, but interestingly for me, not a single person voted for the Beal for number 1 or number 2. And I actually think it's not bad rum, but yeah, great lineup overall. So yeah, thanks for putting
Sorry,
it.
I forgot to ask Brian. Sorry, Brian, what was your favorites?
I think for me, Fernandez.
Fernandez,
yeah.
number 1. Do you have a
I-
second?
And I think that I like that you mentioned that no one talked about the
The Beal.
bureau as well. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, you're gonna say Beal number 2?
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Sorry, Doug, what did you say was the first one? Was it the
Clarendon. It was a Clarendon for him.
Yeah, okay, that's what I thought. Yeah,
Mm.
yeah, cool. Anyone, Eli or Kurt or anything? Did you want to mention what you picked, or? That's okay, no worries.
I did ask them to unmute, but I'll try to.
Now I can talk. Now you're in trouble.
Now you're in trouble. Okay.
The Clarendon for me was number 1, and the second one, the Foursquare, the Barbados.
Cool. Yeah, the fourth score is really good.
Yeah.
Again, I need to like just so little of it comes into the province, and for being such a stupidly hyped distillery, you gotta I gotta try a little bit more. I gotta be honest with you, I don't get it yet. I don't
Yeah.
get that hype, and
So
maybe I
what-
need to, but yeah.
Yeah, all right. There's so much.
So with those two, they're the ones that take me closest to that kind of tropical back end finish funk that things like Ben Nevis and stuff have. They're closer to a whiskey in that sense than any of the others. So that's probably why I'm drawing my parallels there. But there's a complexity, there's a tropical edge that I really, really like. They were a little bit sharper, a little bit like they've been kind of had the mids turned up just a little bit more than the others for me. So quite cool.
Yeah, cool. Awesome notes, man. Eli?
Yeah, I really like that Fernandez.
Yeah.
And I if I'm being honest, I think if we had put it before the Clarendon, it would have shined a little bit more. Just because that Clarendon, not that it's overly high ester, but it's still it's a heftier one for sure. And that Fernandez I found is quite delicate.
Mm.
And having that before, like, it just kind of overpowered it a little bit, and your palate might have been like expecting more from the Fernandez. Because when I have a glass of that Fernandez just on its own at home at night, it's just so wonderful, and it's just so pretty and easy to drink, and I just really, really enjoy it. But next to some of the bigger guys we had right before it, I kind of agree with Lance. Like, it almost didn't hold up in this lineup specifically.
And so if you remember the last one we did too, there was a few bottles that didn't quite hold up the same either. Was it like, I think there was like, everyone liked the Trinidad and whatever, and like I think there was a Worthy Park that like really took it home like after the fact. It took me a long time to kind of really like work out what the order was. And I got to be honest, I don't even know if I did like the best job with it. All the alcohols are all high and they're all fairly close, so I couldn't depend on that. I tried with extra content, And then I tasted them and I couldn't do that either because I think I tried that and I don't know if it actually showed as well, honestly. Like after
Right.
for the travelers was a little gooier and it coated my palate too much to be able to get the nuances of it Fernandez. So I don't know, it was really hard. I really struggled with that one. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I remember in that last room tasting the money musk. Was the money musk in that one? Or maybe that was the best.
In that, but I think there was another one that really really killed it. I can't remember which one it was now.
Is it the Australian, the Cadenhead Australian that we have?
The Australian was
Anyways, it was one of those ones that is like lighter and more delicate, and just like when you put it next to Beast, it's just like you just gotta have it on its own, because when it's on its own, they're really beautiful. So
yeah, thanks, man. Yeah, that was great. Well, that's all we have right now, I think. It's been almost 2 hours now. I'm gonna let you guys go in a second here. If anybody's interested in any of these rums, they are all available except for the Fernandez, unfortunately. I'd love to say that I could get some more and maybe we can hound Igor a little bit more, but I kind of think it might be gone. We'll see more Trinidad stuff like we spoke about when we first tasted it. TDL is a dime a dozen. It's just whether or not you can get something that'll like hit those same pieces or not. But I'm always on the lookout. We just placed, just for a heads up, we just placed an order for some more Homes K. I think we just placed an order for a couple more boutique. So they'll be coming in the future, but anyone who wants anything here, if you want to make an order online, just mention you're in the tasting and you'll get your discount as we normally give you. Yeah, I think that might be it. Yeah, play us out, Kurt. Thanks, Benny. Yeah, well, thanks to Eli and Sammy and Kurt for joining me here. Andrew, of course, who helped set this whole thing up. Lance for gracing us with his information on anything that I was any holes that I had in my knowledge and whatnot. And man, this was like such a fun little.
Yeah, it was great. I enjoyed myself here.
Don't forget Doug and his poor boy cap.
Thank you.
Anyways, yeah, I'm gonna let you guys go and